It's been another fascinating year, the World Economic Forum here in Davos, Switzerland, certainly on the sidelines of the WEF as well. That's because the India story is certainly resounding over here in terms of international interest. It's also a story which is backed by considerable GDP growth numbers. The RBI governor telling us today that 7%, possibly even more in 2024, 2025 is something to look forward to. We've got one of India's finest industrialists, a real inspiration to industry, but also to those who follow Indian industry. Mr. Godrej, wonderful to have you on the program today. Thank you so much. Let's talk a little bit about the macro story on India this time. There is an overall sense of positivity, I sense. In speaking to a lot of people over here, what are you hearing?
Absolutely. Everyone is very impressed by India. There have been geopolitical crises. We have just come out of the pandemic, but all of this India seems to have weathered very well, except for the first year of the pandemic when there was this negative growth. Since then we've had excellent growth. 3 years of about 7% growth looks on the cards, and the whole world is impressed by this. India has not been affected by these crises, and that's a great credit to our government and our people.
Sir, you are looking to expand in palm oil processing in Agrovet. Could you tell us a little bit about timelines, what the plans are?
Yes. We started the palm oil industry in 1989 because we needed raw material for our oleochemical industry. Though actually we sold all of it for edible purposes. There was slow, steady growth, and we have about 65,000 hectares already planted, some of it very recently, so not yet yielding. We are producing about 120,000 tons of oil already, but the 65,000 hectares, we are planning to add 100,000 hectares in the next 4 years. I should clarify that all of this is grown by smallholder farmers. We only do the milling and we provide the planting material, and more we have our Samadhan centers.
Yes.
Where we do leaf testing, soil testing, give the farmers excellent advice so they save on fertilizer, and excessive fertilizer causes pollution, so we avoid that pollution by giving them the exact dose. We also advise them to add sulfur if necessary. Sulfur improves the oil content, and the government's new policy is encouraging more and more farmers, and we have just announced loans for our farmers with the collaboration of the State Bank of India. And this means it's a bright future, and over the years we hope to keep up this pace. We are well established in Andhra Pradesh. We just met with the Telangana Chief Minister here, and we are expecting to expand faster in Telangana, also in Orissa, and 4 northeastern states that are contiguous.
So the animal feed business is obviously something which is absolutely huge. It is also closely associated with the success of the monsoon. Your numbers have been positive. Your Q2 numbers were very good in cattle, and aqua feed volumes grew 16% and 15% respectively. The reason I ask you this question is because we talk about climate change over here at Davos in a big way, and it's something which directly impacts your industry when it comes to rainfall, and the fact that it's been irregular, even if the overall numbers have been okay. Is this something that concerns you?
It concerns us to some extent, and there are ups and downs, but there have been ups and downs in the agricultural industry always. The good thing about our agribusiness is we have several different businesses, and they're not affected the same way each time. So we find that always one business is hit and the other businesses benefit from that hit. So it works out in the end. But climate change is getting more and more serious. I've attended several sessions here in Davos. We are getting close to tipping points. It's really, really sad because the cost of adaptation is greater than the cost of prevention. Any logical person would go for prevention, not adaptation. Unfortunately, for prevention, we need a level playing field. If we had some uniform carbon price all over the world with a uniform cap and trade, or even a uniform carbon tax collected by individual states, we would solve this problem in a jiffy. And I'm urging the world to do something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll have to depend on new technology, and that's the other thing we need to pursue. But we'll have to do many, many things simultaneously to solve this problem. But if we cross tipping points, it's going to be a disaster.
What are some of the technologies that you'd be interested in when it comes to the agricultural sector?
Anything that sequesters carbon, and because we are in an agri-business, we are really looking at producing more food from trees. Oil palm is already there. We are expanding it. Every time you plant an oil palm tree, you're sequestering carbon. Yes. We are working with the American company Terviva. They have developed Pongamia, which is a tree known in India, currant. We used to use the oil to make soap, but they have succeeded in making the protein and the oil human edible.
Right.
So if we can get more and more food from trees, we can sequester carbon while we feed our population. Yeah. Even in the field, we can try regenerative agriculture. That keeps the soil healthy. We can put organic carbon in the soil. That carbon gets sequestered for many, many years, and the yields improve.
Yeah.
So all these solutions, I'm particularly interested, but of course there are solutions like better transportation methods, more forms of green energy. The wind and solar are excellent. They're competitive with coal today, but they're sporadic. We also need more storage or more baseload energy or time of day pricing so that we require less storage. And for baseload energy, we really need to look at modular nuclear, and I myself am very interested in biomass. There was a bamboo conference in Mumbai just before I left, and our Chief Minister Eknath Shinde was over there as well. Bamboo is very promising, the yields are excellent, and the roots sequester carbon even while we cut the stalks and burn them as a green biofuel, and which can provide energy round the clock.
You mentioned modular nuclear. Are you optimistic about that? Because it's a controversial choice at one level. But many say it's the only way forward. I mean,
nuclear is an extremely green technology. It's controversial as an unsafe technology.
Yes.
But modular nuclear, a small modular nuclear, is expected to be very, very safe. And I was speaking to Westinghouse. They claim they have large modular nuclear, which is equally safe.
Yes.
So we do need to look at it and say cautiously, make sure that the safety is good, and then yes.
I must ask you, since we are talking about sustainable growth, and it is obviously at one level linked very closely to the environment. And my next question is, every year we go through this stubble burning in Punjab. It affects large parts of North India. In fact, the entire Indo-Gangetic Plain has air pollution levels which are horrific. There is an industrial solution to this. Nobody seems to have the money to actually do it, to take the stubble and recycle it and perhaps use that biomass towards electricity or some other areas.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this?
I think that's, it can be done, it should be done. CII had a project. We can all work together on doing that. We are now working on our Scope 3 emissions, and some of this stubble comes from our raw materials for animal feed.
Yes.
And we are also trying to look for solutions. As you said, it can be burnt as biomass. The only problem is biomass is bulky, freight costs are high.
Yes.
Ideally, you should burn it nearby. But even that can be worked out. And there are other solutions, like you can put the stubble in the soil for mulching, which sequesters the carbon in the soil at least for some time and improves the yields. But the farmers are impatient. There's a very short period of time between the two crops. Another thing we can do is maybe increase that time period, then the compulsion to burn will be less.
Yes.
And we can change the crops we grow, which might also mean a bigger period between the two crops, and therefore the compulsion to burn would be less.
Sir, just one or two more questions. The Godrej Group obviously hugely diversified, different parts of the family and others deal with different parts of the business. I'm fascinated by the defense sector and Godrej Aerospace. Is this something that the group thinks about very, very closely? Because it is something that's really growing in India.
Yeah, definitely. The group has been thinking about that, and defense and aerospace has been an important part of it. And we have been working with ISRO for many, many years.
Yeah, parts of Chandrayaan,
yes,
which is the latest with
the rocket engines have been used in many projects. It's not just for Chandrayaan, but it has a long history. And we have always been ready to serve the nation. And it was ISRO who approached us. It's not something we started on our own.
Absolutely. It's been wonderful speaking to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
for
much.
being with us. There you have it, Mr. Godrej, a huge inspiration for so many of us. That's how I started this interview. That's how I'm going to end it. But the sectors that he deals with personally very closely, the agriculture sector, the involvement of the Godrej Group for so many decades, absolutely critical for the growth of the Indian economy.